November 24th, 2025. This is First Alert Weather Plus. Meteorologist Nicholas Snyder here. We have a whole lot to talk about. We're getting into that transitional period of when we're going to start to see maybe some cooler weather or some warmer weather, and of course, a lot of holiday travel implications going on here. So let's take a look at what we're talking about this evening on this episode of First Alert Weather Plus. Big impacts to travel could be expected. We're watching the period of the middle of this week for the potential of some gusty winds and some rainy conditions. So we're taking a closer look at that. Could be looking at a late week cool down as well, just in time for Thanksgiving and Black Friday. And of course, the long-term impacts of what we could be seeing going into December. A lot of people want to know what's going on in December. We're going to talk all about that. We first got to get into, of course, what is going on in the weather right now. And it's this system right here that's going to cause us a few impacts as we head into the middle of this week. First alert weather days are in place for tomorrow and Wednesday because of these two little disturbances right here that are going to impact your Thanksgiving travel in some way, shape, or form here. As this system works its way further up, and I'll take off the markings I have on here, the system that's out in the central lowlands and the Great Plains, we're going to start to see some precipitation begin to work its way into the area and cause some impact for Tuesday travel for Thanksgiving if you do have plans to go out and do that. Meanwhile, this one is going to combine with this one, and we could see windy impacts with the system that could be headed our way. So again, lots to talk about in this weather pattern. Excuse me for that. Here's a look at our radar picture right now. I want you to notice Tornado Watch is in place for portions of the United States. Down here in Texas, Louisiana, there's that Tornado Watch right there. A couple of severe thunderstorm warnings even in place. Now, we're not expecting anything like that. No severe weather to be expected, but some decent rains on Tuesday and some gusty winds from this part of the system that's up here that we will need to watch. So let's talk about the rains first. Here's the first disturbance working its way through. It's right here. I've highlighted this for you on the water vapor satellite here. And the main part of the disturbance still back toward Kansas, back toward Texas, back towards Oklahoma. As I take off the markings here, I want you to notice where this system is going. It's kind of losing its amplitude as it works its way further to the east, but there is some energy from the gusty winds here very high up in the atmosphere. This is looking at about 30,000 or so feet where airplanes fly. This is that energy is coming through. We're seeing what's called a jet streak, and downwind of that, we see divergence. We talk about diverging and converging air. When you get diverging air aloft, you get a lot of rising motion below that to help fill the void and, of course, into an area of low pressure. Definitely something we're tracking and looking into pretty closely with that little piece of energy right there. I'll take off this marking, and I want you to notice again, the main part of the system crosses on Tuesday. Then we get a reinforcing shot of energy from this system that could be headed our way for Wednesday. They're going to actually combine forces, create an even stronger area of low pressure. Look at that divergence right here. You got southerly winds here. You got basically westerly winds here. So a good area of low pressure will develop into southern Ontario, northeast Ohio, northern Pennsylvania, and upstate New York. And that's ultimately what's going to bring in the wind. You see, in fact, some pretty strong wind gusts high up in the atmosphere here in this orange zone. And that's what's headed our way on Wednesday evening. So again, quite a bit of impactful weather headed our way. Let's take a closer look at the lower levels of the atmosphere. This we're looking at converging air. Let's pause this 9 a.m. Tuesday. That convergence is clearly evident right in here. Let's go really show you kind of a close-up of this system and what it could do for a lot of us as we head into the morning time frame of Tuesday. There's very strong wind right in here, southern Kentucky, northern Tennessee. So winds moving really fast in the lower levels of the atmosphere. Now, I'll bring this back to me here so you can see a really fast wind slowing down. Think about it as if you're on the freeway or on the interstate here. Your car's driving on the road, you hit a lot of traffic, everyone slows down, gets closer together. We call that convergence of air. So let's send it back to, again, the full weather graphic picture here. That's exactly what's happening here. The winds are really strong in that orange dollop, and they're hitting this wall coming close together. So you have a zone of strong convergence, and again, with convergence, you get rising air above that, and diverging air above that. And that's what helps create those rain showers that we are going to be seeing. So a burst of rain around 9 a.m., that's a pretty busy travel time with people going to be out and about on their morning commutes. Could be another burst of rain thanks to this zone of fast wind here, that converging of air. And again, I'll bring it back to the weather graphics full so you get a good picture here around the middle parts of the day. And then in the afternoon, once that energy works itself further away from the area, we start to see some better conditions work in before that next really burst of energy comes through on Wednesday, creating those gustier winds and stronger winds over the area. So that's what we're watching pretty closely as far as tomorrow's concerned. And, of course, the wind after that. Here we go. So what we're tracking, basically, rain on Tuesday, wind on Wednesday. We've been mentioning that earlier. The impacts will be felt Tuesday morning with that rain mainly, and then Wednesday afternoon with the wind here. Watch slick travel conditions. Visibility could be lowered. Not expecting any flooding or anything like that. Just quick bursts of periodic rain here, lowered visibility, and ponding on the roadways as a potential here. The trash can's going to need to be watched here on Wednesday. So timing the rain out for you right here. We start to get kind of that widespread soaking rain moving in around that 4 a.m. time frame. You notice that showing up on our models right here. This is the high-resolution rapid refresh model. High-resolution model allows for thunderstorms in that model too. So we could see even some localized rumbles of thunder too, not expecting anything too bad with the thunder. But again, lowered visibility, slick travel conditions, certainly the main thing we need to watch. Here's that burst of rain at 9 a.m. I was talking about, that next burst of rain around noon, and then things clear out other than just a few showers during the afternoon and evening time frame of tomorrow. So I'm saying if you're traveling tomorrow, the best time to go will be in the evening, at least for Thanksgiving travel. Not a lot of us have a lot of choice when it comes to the morning commute and school and anything like that, which I know there are still a few schools that are in session. And I know that there will be people who still have to go to work tomorrow. You can't really help the morning commute, but you can help when you go for Thanksgiving travel. That certainly is going to be a better time frame to go in the evening. More impacts will be felt up here in southern Ohio, too. Northern and western locations. If you're traveling over towards Cincinnati, if you're traveling up toward Columbus, and if you're traveling up toward Cleveland out of the Huntington, Charleston area or parts of eastern Kentucky, West Virginia, you're going to have to watch for that ponding on the roadway, even up toward Pittsburgh if you're traveling up I-79 there. That's going to be certainly a spot we need to watch because the ponding on the roadway is definitely going to be more common in southern Ohio, southwestern PA, and central Ohio as well, up toward the I-70 corridor, where more forcing for that rain is going to exist here. So that'll definitely be something to keep in mind. Let's track the winds now. Again, this is fast forwarding to Wednesday. And I want you to notice how strong those gusts eventually get. You're talking by 4 p.m. Wednesday. Some areas, especially in the flatter terrain out in southern Ohio, 40-mile-an-hour gusts in Portsmouth, 43-mile-an-hour gusts in Athens. Going to be a really breezy day. That could certainly blow over a trash can, can certainly blow around objects in the yard. The Christmas decorations, some of us have those up. You're going to have to watch those pretty closely. Those outside ones, at least. The inside ones should be A-OK. Now, this is another one of our models. This is what the National Weather Service typically uses. It's a little bit lower, but still gusts 25 to 30 miles an hour on that model, and, of course, on the European model with the gusts up to 30 to 40 miles an hour. We wanted to exercise abundance of caution because it is a big travel week. A lot of people are going to be out on the road, so that's why we've put out a first alert weather day for the day on Wednesday, as well as the rain we could see here on Tuesday. Lots to talk about with your day Tuesday. We timed it out for you, but who exactly is going to see what here? Well, meteorologist Dylan Godet has much more on what we could be expecting for your day on Tuesday.
Hey everyone, First Alert meteorologist Dylan Godet here. Let's take a look at that Tuesday forecast. So Tuesday, the day this week that we're going to be seeing the bulk of the rain. In parts of southern Ohio, we could get close to those maybe low to mid 60s in spots, and we'll be tracking the rain that will be heaviest along and north of I-64. As you head towards southern West Virginia Coalfield, same deal for you. Best chance of rain will be during your midday through the early afternoon. That's also when we're going to start to see the winds increasing out of the south. That brings in that mild air, warmest day of the week for sure, even with the rain. That all changes, though, as that front moves on through. Central West Virginia will be ranging from the upper 50s into the low to close to mid-60s. I think we'll struggle to get quite that warm as the rain will be pushing in. Cold air arrives throughout the day on Wednesday, and then it's going to stay cold through the rest of the week into the start of the weekend. You can stay with the First Alert Weather team for more updates.
And we're going to talk all about that cold air because that's a big deal. Going to have at least a feeling that you're not going to be really liking on Thursday and Friday mornings with those overnight lows. So let's get right into it. This is the batch of cold air well off to the west right here. It's in the Pacific. I mentioned that reinforcing shot of energy coming on Wednesday. It's what's going to help increase those winds. Now, as we fast forward here to Friday, here is where it is. It's right overhead. The coldest of the air still into parts of Canada here, where you see those much lower, cooler colors right up here toward Toronto, up toward the Cleveland and Buffalo areas here as well. But we are going to be seeing impacts, at least feeling that, work its way down from the north as we head into the day on Thursday and into your day on Friday. So that's definitely going to be something we're watching. The good news is that we're not seeing any precipitation. The winds are going to be out of the west, so we're not seeing any upslope mountain precipitation or any flurries or anything like that coming off the lakes, which is very good news. But it's still going to be feeling rather chilly, even again all the way through Friday, though we start to get a high pressure work in and pump in some warmer temperatures as we head into Saturday. But looking at our low-level temperatures again, notice how this changes quickly. During the day on Thursday, 8 a.m., we're in that purple zone right in here. That is going to feel really, really chilly for much of the area. Make sure you're bundling up. If you do have any turkey trots, you should be fine. We're not talking about any precipitation getting in the way, but have the gloves on, have some long running clothes on. You're not going to be in shorts for sure, turkey trot morning on Thanksgiving. So make sure you're prepared for that. Meanwhile, as we head into Friday, Black Friday, gloves, coats, hats, scarves, you name it, you're going to need it for Monday, or rather Friday morning shopping here before things again change as we head into Saturday. That's the European model. The American model pretty much showing the same kind of deal here. Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon on the chillier side. Turkey bowls, meanwhile, should get into the 40s. I think the daytime highs, because of sunshine that we will be seeing as high pressure works in, not going to be too bad. We're going to be in the 40s, but still, we're not used to it, so have the gloves, the coats, the hats, the scarves on, you name it. Friday morning, same deal for Black Friday on the American model compared to the European model, and really don't get reprieve until we head here into the weekend. So here's what this translates to at the ground. Again, Thursday morning, upper 20s, lower 30s, pretty common over the area. Turkey trot weather is going to be cold. Friday morning, mid-20s for your morning lows. Very, very cold for Black Friday morning. GFS model or the American model showing much of the same thing. And again, the national blend of models or the National Weather Service model, upper 20s and lower 30s for Thursday morning, and we're in the mid-20s by the time we head here into Friday morning. Let's talk about the rain, though. No precipitation to talk about. The only chance of precipitation is going to be outside of our viewing area up towards Snowshoe, where we could see a flurry or two. That's going to be about it. That would come late Thursday night into Friday. For us, in our viewing area, no one sees any sort of precipitation, so there's some good news. Certainly relief for a lot of us. I know we did have people posting on social media all about, oh, there's a potential of a Thanksgiving snowstorm, anything like that. Not going to be the case. It's just going to be on the chillier side, seasonably chilly. But make sure, again, you're prepared. It's winter-like weather, so have the winter-like attire as you are off and about on Thursday night into Friday. Now, we have had big snowstorms in the past on Thanksgiving. And Tony Cavalier, he's going to have much more on what we're seeing from that and where this Thanksgiving lines up in terms of how active the weather could be.
Well, you wouldn't be a meteorologist if you didn't follow and didn't love the great storms of all time. So I'm looking at the climatology of Novembers that have had snow over the years. We've got a special place, a special graphic for the 1950 storm. So let's go ahead and look at 1993 and 1995. Hard winters would follow snow during the month of November, as many as 13 inches of snow total for the entire month. Bottom line is 93 and 95, snow in November paved the way for very hard conditions all winter long. I remember one of my first Thanksgivings here was 1989. I spent it with Jewel Huffman's family. 1 to 3 inches of snow was on the ground early in the week and held on for a white Thanksgiving. That would pave the way for the coldest December on record. The polar vortex, it was the first time I used that term back in 1989. That polar vortex meant we had a white Christmas and a white New Year's at 1990, and then the rest of the winter, nothing happened. So just because it's cold and snow in November or December does not promise it'll be a harsh winter. 1976 and 77, the Ohio River, those winters would freeze over. The old timers will tell you, folks walked across the Ohio River. Those Novembers had as much as 4 inches of snow, and by 2013, it was one of only 2 white Thanksgivings since I've lived here. 1 to 3 inches of snow fell before Thanksgiving, held on the ground for a white Thanksgiving, and then a very hard winter lay ahead. Okay, let's spend our time on the great Thanksgiving weekend snowstorm of 1950. Did you know that Thanksgiving Day dawned damp with temperatures in the 50s? Temperature would fall all day long and rain would change over to snow at night. It would then snow all day long Friday, all day long Saturday, to the tune of more than 2 feet of snow falling through most of West Virginia. Charleston, 25 inches, Parkersburg, 32 inches. I-79 and I-77, had they been in existence, that zone would have been totally immobilized, as would many other interstates in Ohio and even into Kentucky, because more than a foot of snow would fall from Cleveland, Detroit, Columbus, Cincinnati, all the way down to Lexington and Pikeville. The interesting thing, if you look at Columbus, that Saturday was the Ohio State-Michigan game. The Wolverines would win 9-3 over the Buckeyes without a first down. 45 punts occurred in the whiteout conditions. I've seen pictures, just amazing, of that great snowstorm. Now, in 1950, snow forecasting technology, not nearly what it is right now. The computer models really did not exist back then. So the idea to get out in advance an alert for snow coming in would have been quite minimal. Also, snow plows and salting abilities were in their infancy stages, kind of. So can you imagine? We go from 50s to single numbers temperature, throw in the wind gusting to 50 miles an hour, gale force winds whipping the snow. I've seen pictures over in Ironton, Ohio, of snow drifts shoulder high. Can you imagine the hardship that brought on when the temperature sank into the single numbers? Because the snow lay deep, and we were literally, back in 1950, locked in a cryosphere, a land of snow and ice, back during the Thanksgiving weekend of 1950. The old-timers, the real old-timers will tell you that was idyllic. It's still the storm of record in our area, as far as snow is concerned, occurring in November. And Nicholas, I might say, they don't make snowstorms like that anymore.
Yeah, Tony, we certainly haven't seen a snowstorm quite that impactful since then, or at least more recently. So quite an impactful storm indeed that did come through. I want to talk about now the long-term pattern. Meteorologist Dylan Godet, coming up in a couple of hours, is going to have his winter forecast on our winter weather special right here on WSAZ Plus. And we'll give you everything you need to know about winter travel and things of that nature that really could come in handy for you. So be sure to tune in for that one. And I want you to see the long-term forecast. We have that pulled up for you right here to give you an idea of what the rest of December and going into mid-December could look like here. Certainly could look a little cooler than average here. So we're watching this, and there's a few things that we're watching that could signal for some cooler than average temperatures. My apologies for zooming in. So we're taking you to the weather computer to give you an idea of just about what we could be seeing here. We want to talk about the Madden-Julian Oscillation. This is a pattern that really talks about where there's thunderstorms in the tropics, and you may be wondering, well, what does this have to do with anything around here? Well, it tells us a lot about what we could be seeing in the months to come. So I'm going to zoom into this picture. This is generally the pattern you see during a Phase 7 December Madden-Julian Oscillation. Why is this important? Right now we're in that Phase 7 time frame. right now. Phase 7 just basically means that the pattern is toward the Pacific Ocean. All the thunderstorms are toward the Pacific Ocean. And again, that has impacts on what we're seeing. I talk about the Eastern Pacific Oscillation, the North Atlantic Oscillation here. And in fact, let's zoom into kind of what you're seeing. Get me off screen to really highlight that, to really illustrate what this means. This is phase 7. This is what we're going to be in for much of December. We're in phase 6 right now, which is a very warm pattern. You'll notice the Eastern Pacific Oscillation, you can see my mouse there, remains negative. We've been in that negative Eastern Pacific Oscillation for a while here. The North Atlantic Oscillation, though, remains positive, so not all the cold air is being allowed to spill down into our part of the country. We're kind of near average. Now, in a pattern right now that we're seeing where there is a greater than 1 amplitude of that Madden-Julian Oscillation, you'll notice that that pattern remains even warmer with much of the cooler air back to the west, although that North Atlantic Oscillation looks to be at least a little bit more negative. This kind of matches what we're talking about over the next couple of weeks, this phase 7 right here, which makes sense because right now we are in phase 7. Now, once we head a little bit later on into December, looks like we move into phase 8. This means that, notice the cooler air filtering on down with warmer air back to the west here. That Eastern Pacific Oscillation beginning to change just a little bit, kind of weakening in its pattern. Kind of a similar setup here, the cold air filtering down. What this all means is that looks likely that we could see some cooler air moving in. This is our MJO forecast. The red and blue lines is what the forecast is. Again, right now we're in phase 6. Here's all the quadrants right here. The red line is the future, and as you see it curl back toward phase 7 and 8, this is one of the models. This is the American model right here. Kind of showing and illustrating what the behavior of this is going to do. Each of these green lines represents one run of the model, by the way, and the red and the blue line is the ensemble mean, or the mean of kind of all those model runs coming together here. So this is what we're taking a close look at. Notice again, by the first of the month, we're into that phase 7. By toward, let's say, the middle of December, we reach toward phase 8. That's just one model. I'll show you another one of these models here. Same kind of deal on the American model going into phase 8. Let's take a look at that long-term forecast. A lot of these models are in agreement here. I'll show you the European in just a second, but this is showing by mid-December well into phase 8, and that would mean very, very cold temperatures. That could be a possibility here in the long term. Same thing with this model showing us going into phase 8, mid-December, not quite there by the earlier part of December here, and same deal here on this, although this only goes out to December 3rd, it looks like here. Let's take a look at the European model. It's a little less aggressive compared to the American model. Keeps us in phase 7 toward, let's say, the early part of mid-December. But once we head further down the line here into later mid-December, notice what happens. It gets back into that phase 8 just in time for Christmas, too. We're well into phase 8. Phase 1 would be a cooler pattern. Same thing on this model showing much of the same thing, and this model showing much of the same thing. So there's really good agreement here. The case in point, what I'm getting at is our pattern looks to be changing as we head into mid-December with that sudden stratospheric warming that could be happening. However, the North Atlantic Oscillation has to abide by this rule, and as we see, we need it to be negative, because if we're in a positive, and I'll zoom back in here so you can really see just kind of what I'm seeing. In fact, I'll zoom all the way in. We need this to not be the case. We need these warm temperatures that are right here to go up into the Greenland area, up in toward the northern part of the Atlantic, toward the Hudson Bay here, so we can filter some of this colder air down. Or else we're going to be in a tricky pattern with a lot of swings and just a really hard temperature pattern to look at. And it looks to be the case where we are going to be seeing things get back toward that positive area once we head toward the end of the beginning of November and into the beginning of mid-December. At least that's what the ensemble mean is saying. So what this all could mean for us is, yes, we could be in that Phase 8 MJO or Phase 7, later part of Phase 7 MJO as we head into mid-December, but the problem there is that North Atlantic oscillation, limiting the amount of colder air that could get down into the eastern United States. So let's pull up our European model, give you an idea of where the cold air is. Here's that cold air outbreak, by the way, as we head into Thanksgiving. I want you to notice up here into the Hudson Bay, we're seeing much of the warmer air filtering in. That polar vortex really weakens. That's why we see that cooler air outbreak as we head toward Thanksgiving. However, this cold air filters back up toward the Hudson Bay. So the North Atlantic oscillation, goes back positive. And that's why we're going to be seeing kind of fairly seasonable weather as we head into at least the beginning of December. Keep in mind the MJO is still in Phase 7 there, which is a somewhat warmer to near average pattern overhead. Now, we start to see the influence of that Phase 8 MJO right here, where you see those lighter blue colors here once you head toward December 9th. This is that European model forecast. You see that ridging or that warm air start to filter itself a little bit back further to the west. So if that would be the case, then we do start to get some more cold air outbreaks working in. That's where that MJO starts to look to go toward Phase 8. However, still up here toward the Hudson Bay, we still have that positive NAO. Without a negative NAO, we're not going to be seeing a massive cold air outbreak. That would be for the history books. We still could see some chances at snow with this, though, with colder than normal temperatures, or at least slightly colder than normal temperatures being depicted here on the European model, especially with a active storm track coming out of the Pacific. It's definitely possible to where we could see maybe a shot of snow toward the beginning of the middle part of December. We're going to have to keep a very close eye on it. But as far as our 8 to 14 temperature outlook goes for really the continental United States issued by the Climate Prediction Center here, notice December 2nd through 8th, a little bit below normal for our neck of the woods. Now, I want to go back to the European model here. The reason why we're only a little bit below normal is because of this. We start to see high pressure, warmer temperatures build back in for December 3rd. It's not toward the end of that period where we really start to see more influence of that colder air. The 8 to 14 shows that. The weeks 3 to 4 keeps us in that slightly cooler air, and that's the influence from December 6th to December 19th, what we start to see with that MJO going back into Phase 8. The NAO is going to be a big player here in terms of how cold those temperatures are going to get for the middle part of December. We've been talking about a December pattern change for a long time. And with that southern stratospheric warming event that is occurring, I should say, right now, it's likely that we could start to see the impacts of that, especially with the MJO going into Phase 8 once we head, again, and let's go back to full screen view to really show you. Once we head into that middle part of December, we could start to see some more colder air outbreaks, some more shots at snow. It just really depends on what the storm track's going to be. Of course, this far out, it's tough to determine just the extent of what will be headed our way. But of course, we'll keep you updated. And of course, meteorologist Dylan Godet, always on top of this. He's going to be on the winter weather special this evening in about an hour and a half to give you a full look at what we could be seeing, not only for the rest of December, but as we head into January and February too. We're watching that MJO closely. We're watching these patterns and what it can mean for us. And certainly cold shots do have the potential of being there, at least for December. That's a little preview for that winter weather special here. Let's go back to the weather graphics. I want to show you our super 7-day forecast, where we're going to track a few things for you. Of course, the gusts to 40 miles an hour on Wednesday. Hour by hour, it looks like better chances of seeing those higher wind gusts will come here in the afternoon on Wednesday. So up to 40 miles an hour between 2 and 6 p.m. here. That's where you're going to need to tie all those objects down, the trash cans, the Christmas decorations, anything like that. That's what you want to keep in mind. We're also tracking another system for Sunday. Right now, we look to be all rain. There's still not a whole lot of certainty as to what this system's going to do. It's kind of up in the air at this point, but there does appear to be a signal that we could see some widespread soaking rain on Sunday. If you're traveling up toward the Cleveland area, up toward Chicago, up toward South Bend, Indiana, we're looking at all snow, up toward Detroit even too. I know there's a big connection there. Yeah, we could be looking at all snow. So for those of us in the upper Midwest into the Great Lakes, we are watching the potential of a winter storm up there. For us, it's all rain, but still, rain could be impactful. So to be determined if we need a first alert weather day on that, but we're keeping a very close eye on that. Could be a little breezy also on Monday. Winter weather special. Again, I want to really stress this. Winter weather special is coming tonight at 9 p.m., we'll have everything you need to know. I'm doing a little story on how the West Virginia Department of Transportation is preparing the roadways. Tony's got some demonstrations on past winters, past winter storms, things like that. I've got a little demonstration on precipitation types, and the all-important winter forecast will be coming right at the end of that with meteorologist Dylan Godet. You can watch that the same way you watch First Alert Weather Plus. You find it on WSAZ.com. And go to the live section. Also, we'd be pushing it on our app. So if you want to watch it live on the app, you can find it there. This is First Alert Weather Plus. We give you the first alert to everything you need to know about any travel conditions, about the weather in your neighborhood, and about events coming up. Everything you need to know on the weather, we go in depth as well. We air every Monday around 7 p.m. and continue to give you the latest updates. If you miss it, you can find us on WSAZ.com in the First Alert Weather Plus tab. You can also find us on our YouTube channel. Make sure you're liking and subscribing to that. That is First Alert Weather Plus, WSAZ First Alert Weather Plus on YouTube. And you can follow each of us on Facebook. I'm meteorologist Nicholas Snyder on Facebook. Tony is Tony Cavalier on Facebook. And Dylan is meteorologist Dylan Godet Weather on Facebook. Don't want to send you to the wrong Dylan here. In the meantime, make it a great Monday and stay tuned for the winter weather special coming up in less than an hour and a half. You don't want to miss that.